Hey sis, welcome to the Sisterhood, Soul, and Strategy podcast, a space for women building businesses that feel as good as they look. I'm Steph, a small town girl from Wisconsin with big dreams to positively impact the world. This podcast is from the heart, where we share real conversations about building intentional businesses that thrive in every season. And the best part, we talk both soul and strategy, and we wrap it all up in sisterhood. Because let's be real, business is more fun in community. So no matter your age or stage of small business ownership, you stumbled upon this podcast for a reason. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Hey, it's Steph, and welcome back to the podcast. I am coming at you with a solo episode today. And this is going to be a different message than you'd probably hear from me. And hopefully it just shows the evolution and the work that I'm doing. Today, I want to talk about two different words. And one we hear often. And I'm going to invite you to change your perspective around this word, which is something that I have used and said, still do, but I'm having more of a realization around the challenges with this word. And the word is consistency. I have said forever that I want to be a consistent person, someone who shows up day after day, week after week, month after month, and continues to better myself and go after my goals regardless of what's going on in my life or my business. And that mindset has served me well. It has served me for a long time. It allowed me to push through many years of challenges as an entrepreneur, as well as even in my workouts. I had many injuries in my 20s, and I continued to keep showing up for myself. And I have learned that consistency, while it can be a great thing for people that need that kind of structure in their day-to-day and their life to accomplish goals, it can also be to a detriment because it can turn into forcing and pushing, which can ultimately lead to burnout, exhaustion, injury, depending on, which context you're taking this in. And ultimately, what I'm learning is that there's a better way. There's a better perspective and a better word that we can use to replace consistency, because I do think there are still so many great qualities to the word consistency and what it can do for your goals and your life and your business. Instead, I want to invite you to replace the word consistency with momentum, because momentum does not ignore how you feel that day. It doesn't ignore your energy or your capacity or the season of life or business or motherhood or whatever that is that you're in. So I want to invite you to replace the word consistency. But let's first talk about consistency and why it maybe has some downsides to it, because it focuses on output and frequency as the primary drivers. Like, it's very productivity focused, right? And it doesn't take into account your energy, your capacity, or the season of life or business or motherhood that you're in. And sometimes only focusing on consistency and showing up day after day can feel so unsustainable that we actually see it lead to the opposite effect of inconsistency and all or nothing mentality, and kind of this like yo-yoing between extremes of, I'm going to show up and do this thing every single day. And then they have a day or two where, life is lifing and it just doesn't work that way. Instead of being flexible and flowing with it, because they didn't show up and they weren't consistent for a few days, then they fall off completely. I have seen this play out over and over and over again in the fitness world, right? As a trainer for over a decade, I also see it in the business world every single day. People saying, "Oh, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to do this thing every single day." And then they miss one day. And instead of just getting back with it and picking up where they left off, they stop altogether. And that is part of the reason why I think we need to take a new perspective and approach to this word consistency. Instead of feeling all or nothing, like I have to do this thing every day, I have to produce, I have to output, and it solely focusing on the frequency. Instead, I want to invite you to replace that word, and I'm going to practice doing this myself even more, is replacing consistency with the word momentum. And the reason being is that momentum is about forward movement. It still is about moving towards your goals, whatever that may be, but it allows for flexibility and adaptability. And the focus is less on output and more on progress and direction and moving forward as just the direction over perfection. And momentum allows for you to have a day that is not consistent and then to get back at it the next day. It also allows you to adapt for the season of life and business or motherhood that you're in. That is what creates sustainability over time is, and I keep talking about this, but actually matching our capacity and our energy to the season that we're in. And in order to do that, we cannot expect ourselves to show up every single day with the same amount of energy, capacity, time, mental focus, physical, fitness, whatever that is. We are not going to be the same human day after day. And instead of just focusing on being consistent every single day and showing up the same way every day and having the same output every day, we can focus on momentum and showing up as that best version of ourselves for that day and being flexible as needed, right? If I am trying to hit my gym goals and I just want to be consistent, that means I'm going to always be pushing through on the days when maybe instead of just pushing through, I need to adapt. I actually need to be a little bit more flexible. Maybe I can't get to the gym one day, so instead I'm going to do something at home or I'm going to walk my dog. I'm going to take an approach that is not just like an all or nothing, like, oh, if I can't do it at max output, then it's not worth doing it all, because that doesn't serve us, especially for hard seasons. And I've learned that even trying to get my workouts in motherhood, like that doesn't serve me. Doing something is always better than doing nothing. So in your business, as an example, maybe you had some really big goals to show up consistently every single day on social media. That's been one of my goals this month. And there have been days where I was sick and I didn't show up. I didn't show my face. I still made a post and put something out there, but I just wasn't showing up in the same way every single day. And that's okay. It's okay to not feel the pressure to perform and have that frequency and output every single day. We just need to focus on moving forward or maintenance, right? Sometimes momentum is actually recalibrating at the space we're at right now so that we can move forward. Because if we're always pushing and pushing and pushing and forcing, we're never going to allow ourselves to actually slow down and be able to recalibrate our energy for those harder seasons where we do need to kind of push ourselves to show up. We can't expect ourselves to show up every single day in the same way and have long-term sustainable results. It will ultimately lead to burnout. It will also lead to just like guilt and shame around ourselves, wondering like, what the heck is wrong with me? Why am I struggling? Well, we're trying to treat every week exactly the same. And guess what? Every week is not going to be the same. And I'm learning this through my own life. In February, we had so much sickness in our house. My son was sick first, which forced me to be flexible with what I had planned for that week. Again, momentum versus consistency. And then I was sick right after that. So again, I had to adapt and be flexible again. And that is part of life and entrepreneurship. So instead of making ourselves feel bad about not showing up the same every day and pushing through and forcing outcomes when we literally do not have the energy or the capacity to do so, but we can still show up in some way. We can still have forward movement, but it might require us to actually be flexible and to pause and take a beat. And I'm going to talk more about like sort of that side of things, like the regulation piece that I've been talking to a lot on the podcast, but it's allowing yourself to be human and not a robot. A robot can be consistent every single day because they're showing up with probably the same energy level, the same brain capacity, the same, all of those things every single day. We're not robots. We are human. So we have to allow ourselves to actually be okay with forward movement instead of forced outcomes and forced productivity day after day after day. And again, this is probably going to sound really weird coming from me, who is like, I love a good hit of motivation. I love pushing through. I can force outcomes and I can be resilient. But this actually is a different conversation about resilience, because resilience is the ability to come back to a grounded state when you are experiencing the highs and the lows. When your nervous system is in fight or flight, resiliency is not just pushing through and staying in that dysregulated state. It's actually coming back to center, to make a clear, regulated decision like, you know what? I don't have the capacity to do this thing full force like I was planning to, but here's what I can do. And I hope you see how this conversation is coming with different perspectives from every solo episode I've been sharing lately. We talked about the two questions I'm asking myself. What am I willing to do and what am I not? That also is part of this momentum conversation, because when I know how I'm showing up every week and I have that awareness of where I'm at, I can make really clear decisions about what is going to move the needle forward. And what are those metrics that I can still do even at a lower energy state or less time that week, or maybe my whole household is sick and I'm trying to still move the needle forward with my business? What are those non-negotiables, which I refer to as my momentum metrics or my rhythms, that if I just do these couple things, they don't have to take a lot of time, but if I do these couple things, I'm still going to see forward momentum in my business. Hey, I just needed a quick water break from the podcast, and I want to tell you about what's in my water. It is my new current favorite daily supplement, and I drink it. It's called Glossy, and it is not just a great supplement for hydration and gut health, but it is truly changing my skin in the best way. Glossy is skincare that you drink because it impacts your largest organ and your insides. My favorite flavors are the strawberry hibiscus and the watermelon. I add it to my water every single day. So if you are looking for something that is more than just a hydration stick, Glossy is it. And you can get 40% off your first order with my code getglossy.com/Steph Ross. And you can find that link in the show notes. Cheers. Oh, hey sis, I am just putting on my favorite lip gloss. Small Town Beauty by Asia. This is my favorite color. It's called 23. It's hot pink, and I am obsessed. She has so many different fun colors. She has a lip treatments that can nourish your lips. But personally, I'm a lip gloss bestie, and I absolutely love the human behind this brand, Asia. Her mission and vision is to make sure that just because we live in a small town doesn't mean we can't have incredible products like this lip gloss. So if you are a small town girly who loves a good lip gloss, you need to check out Small Town Beauty by Asia, and you can use my code to save $5 at checkout.
Hey sis, did you get your ticket yet for Sister Circle Summit 2026? If not, what are you waiting for? This is so much more than just your average, and dare I say, boring business conference. This experience of Summit is a Midwest movement bringing together the trailblazing women small business owners across the Midwest and beyond for a 2-day experience that is so much deeper than just strategy and also more than just sitting and listening to speakers. You are going to feel the difference this year. We're at a brand new venue. We have a brand new schedule and flow. We've added brand new pieces to this event, like our soul session and VIP mastermind dinner. So if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, now is the time to do so. Invite your fellow sisters or come solo because you're going to make so many new friends. There is so much intentionality behind this event, from the sisterhood connections to the soul level subconscious work we're going to dig into, as well as, we're always delivering you a business strategy in real time. So what are you waiting for? Go to sistercircle.co, get your ticket today, use my code Steph, and save on your ticket, and I hope to see you there.
And it's different than forcing and pushing like the word consistency, because there are going to be days where we are just not consistent. And instead of yo-yoing and going from, I'm going to do this thing every single day, to not doing it at all, let's find that balance. Let's find that regulated state. And as entrepreneurs, we ride this entrepreneurial roller coaster, even as moms, right? Or leaders. We can feel that pressure of the highs and the lows, right? The highs are great and we want to live there, but guess what? We're not going to live there. And the lows are hard. The valleys are difficult. They're challenging. So instead of living in that dysregulated state of high highs and low lows, how can we even it out a little bit? How can that roller coaster feel a little bit more like just a gentle ride? We're feeling up and down instead of this like extreme highs and lows. And I believe that by switching out the word momentum, we can actually do that. We can continue to feel forward movement in our goals and our business, whether it's our health goals, whatever it is that we're trying to create and move the needle forward on, we can still feel that with momentum, and it actually feels more rhythmic. It's much more easeful. And that's what I'm going for. Like I have experienced enough stress and struggle and dysregulation. I swear I lived my first decade of entrepreneurship in very much a dysregulated state of fight and flight. And sometimes it almost feels harder to live in a regulated state. And here's why. Because we get so used to fight or flight that even when things start to even out and we get out of some of those extreme situations, our body and mind sometimes, but especially our body, doesn't even know what to do with itself. Like it doesn't feel safe being in a regulated state, which makes us go create chaos, which makes us feel like a new ball is about to drop, like something's gonna go wrong, right? Like, have you ever gotten out of a really hard season of your life, your business, and instead of being like relieved like, "Ugh, I can finally breathe now," you're almost on edge because it's such an unfamiliar feeling. And I wrote about this in my book too, and how we start to then like upper level ourselves, where it's like life starts to get really good. And instead of just like raising our awareness to that and staying in a regulated state as life gets good, we actually start to pull ourselves back down by creating problems and dysregulation, because that actually feels more familiar in our body and maybe our mind than not feeling in fight or flight. This is like such a crazy concept to me, but I see it over and over again in other people's patterns, and I see it in myself. I am working through this right now where I have to allow myself to literally be in a regulated state no matter what is happening in my personal life and my business, with my child and my workouts, with my body. Like, how do we actually do that? And I think part of it is just mentally allowing ourselves to be flexible and still pursue our goals and have that momentum week after week, month after month that compounds, instead of forcing and pushing ourselves to these extreme measures of showing up the same way every single day for the sake of consistency, when that mindset maybe doesn't serve us anymore. And I have started to realize that. And even in my workouts, I've had to have days where I might not be pushing full force. I'm still showing up to the workout like when I don't want to, and I'm still doing it when it feels hard, but I might not push myself to my max when I'm not feeling well, or if feeling pain in my knee or my elbow, or like weird joint pain that I've had lately. Instead of just pushing through, like actually having that awareness to be like, what's going on with this? Like, instead of beating myself up, which is it's hard to do, is to not push. That is my default, is to just push through and force the outcome. That's the consistency stuff that I love to be. I love being a consistent person. Like, that is something that I pride myself on. But I'm learning that instead of consistency for the sake of consistency, I can actually still show up, honor my energy, honor my capacity, honor my body and the season that I'm in, and I can still have momentum. I'm still going to see results. And I've proved this to myself even over the last year of working so much less than previous versions of myself had once I became a mom. I worked so much less, but I kept these momentum metrics. I kept the couple things a week that I just needed to do in order to see forward movement. And because of that, I was able to grow both of my businesses, launch a book, nurse a baby majority of the year, all of those things because of that. And same within the gym. Like, I've had some weeks since I started my wellness journey this year where I was sick, or someone else was sick and I was starting to feel sick, or I just had lower energy, whatever that is. And I still showed up for my workouts. I've only missed one day so far, but I took it a little easy and I listened to my body and I backed off when something didn't feel right instead of just pushing and forcing. And so I think this is such a nuanced conversation. Actually, I find that everything I want to talk about lately is like this gray area between pushing and forcing and like stopping. And instead of one or the other, like softening somewhere in the middle, finding that gray space. I just love living in the gray. Like, I just have found that with almost any perspective, I'm like, figuring out what that fine line is. And I've talked about this on the podcast and other episodes. It's like we really have to find it for ourselves. Every single day, it's going to look different. We're going to be showing up different every single day, every single week, every single month, every single season. But we can still have growth in the seasons when it is harder to move the needle forward through those momentum metrics. And if you're wondering, like, what are those momentum metrics? That's the last thing I'll kind of touch on here. And this is from me kind of as an entrepreneurial lens, so take it through whatever you want. But for me, that's my basic movement. Like, what's the bare minimum movement that I need to do this week? And my meal prep. Like, I really only prep my breakfast every single week, you guys. It's nothing crazy, but that's the bare minimum. If I can plan one meal ahead of time every week, that's less brain work every morning trying to figure out what I'm going to eat. That's the bare minimum. Okay, so my workout plan and my meal prep for my breakfast are kind of my personal momentum metrics that move me towards my goals. And then as far as business, most of it is sales and marketing and a little bit of like bookkeeping and finances. But the things I do every single week are showing up on social, even if it's not pretty and perfectly made in Canva, it's just showing up in whatever capacity I have, having conversations with people, whether that's in person, DMs, voice notes, or meeting in person for coffee or even phone calls. Conversations is a key metric to my momentum metrics. Conversations, social media content, and bookkeeping. Like literally just having a pulse on my numbers. I've started implementing this every week where I'm just going in on Mondays and I know like what's upcoming, what has pulled from my accounts already, and just having a pulse of where I'm at. 3 key things. Okay. And if I get nothing else, oh, and then one more thing for sales and marketing is email. I send a weekly email for either my personal email list, which is kind of like my book list, or even just sister circle list. And then I also have a separate list for real estate. So I said one weekly email for each one of my businesses. Doesn't take me a long time, but it's staying top of mind and allows me to stay relevant. And so those key metrics and things for my business are sales and marketing, social and email, touch points, conversations with either current clients checking in or meeting new clients or having conversations in the DMs, um, lead generation, that's all included there. And then just a pulse on my finances. If that's all I do for a week, guess what? I'm still moving the needle in my business. Not every week is going to be these massive projects checked off, especially when you are mixing, motherhood and business. There are going to be unexpected things that pop up. And that's okay because when you're focused on momentum over consistency, you can still have forward motion. You can still honor the season, the capacity, the energy that you have that week, and you can still see results time over time compounding because you're focused on momentum. You're focused on showing up as you are, as a human that day, honoring it, not beating yourself up over not being consistent every single day of the week for the rest of your life. Sounds a little overwhelming to me. We're going to have hard seasons. We're going to have days and weeks that require us to be flexible. And I'm learning that more and more as a mom. And it has only changed my mindset, my perspective, and my approach as an entrepreneur for the better. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope it gave you permission to be human and to still go crush your goals and be a high achieving, ambitious person without losing momentum. I believe that this could be the power in achieving your goals. Like having this perspective shift could be everything to allow you to find more ease and fun and flexibility in the goals that you're pursuing. I'd love to hear how this episode lands. Feel free to share it with me. Go hit me up in the DMs, share it with a friend, and just know that I appreciate you and I'm right there with you and I'm cheering for you. Hey sis, if this episode spoke to you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our weekly conversations that drop every Monday. And would you share this with a fellow sister that needs to hear this message too? If you're craving sisterhood, soul, and strategy in action, I'd love for you to step inside our Sister Circle community, where we gather, grow, and build intentional businesses together in real life and real time. I promise, business is more fun in sisterhood. Until next time, keep leading with soul, honoring your season, and don't forget, I'm always cheering for you.